Hi y'all, it's Linda. Things are happening around my quirky quarter acre. So today I'm going to take you on a garden walk. And Admiral Janeway says hello. Here we have the lavender, and I have harvested the blooms off the lavender. It is already starting to come back out. And next to it is the cucumber pot that I planted the overflow cucumbers in. There's also thyme in there, but it's fairly small still. And I'm sure it'll take that a year or two to get established. Here's the oregano on the right, and on the left are the status flowers, which don't seem to be doing a whole lot. The ones in the back are a little bigger. I think it's because this area is so shady, so I'm going to have to figure out something else to put in that pot for next year. If y'all remember my front bed project, this is where I ended up putting the spearmint. It never even really wilted. And it seems to be doing fine over here. I will probably pin some of it down to the ground to help it spread, but mint spreading is usually not a problem. The zinnias are forming blooms. This coleus is doing really well too. Some of the roses have already been blooming, and this one is putting out a nice cluster of buds. We do have some bug issues with these roses though. So I got out the neem oil and sprayed them, and we'll see how that goes. If it doesn't rain and it actually stays on there, it should help. If it does rain and washes it off, I'll do it again. The rosemary is getting nice and bushy. The sage is continuing to bloom. I have harvested some of the flowers / seeds. I'm not sure if the seeds will actually be viable, but I thought it worth a shot. It's kind of hard to tell when the seeds are ready with this because I've never seen those before, but I waited until the flowers were all dried up and then I took them out, and I'm letting them dry completely, and then I'll see what I get. The lemon balm really needs weeding. I'll pull the weeds out of here so you can actually see what's in there. I got a lot of weeding to do. That right there is my horseradish. I got it about a week ago, and I think I had 4 or 5 bare roots. I planted them and they are growing very well, very quickly. I was surprised at how fast they sprouted up above the ground, as it was just a bare root. And I'm pretty excited about that because that will make a good addition to the fire cider this fall. The plum tree ain't looking so hot. However, I have seen other people's plum trees that planted theirs at about the same time I did, and it's actually the same stock. And they look about the same, so I don't know if this is something that's just happening because it's been transplanted, or if there's something wrong with all of them. I kind of doubt that. But I'll just wait and see what happens with it. The stems are good and flexible and all of that, but the leaves are just turning red for some reason. Now we're at the back corner, and that is my pawpaw tree. It is very slow growing, but it's healthy, it's looking good, and it is growing. I knew it would take a while. I have 4 others that I sprouted from seeds and I need to get them in the ground. I'm thinking I'll just make a little grove down here, maybe like a little cluster of them. And when I get those in the ground, because they're so small, I'm going to take a lot of mulch and put it around there so the weeds stay suppressed, and also so they don't get mowed down when the yard gets mowed. And speaking of mulch, check out this melon patch. My neighbor had a gigantic tree stump in her front yard. And a few days ago, a guy came with a big grinder and ground it down into wood chips. And having no shame about my garden when it comes to needing garden stuff, I saw her and I said, "Hey, you gonna use those wood chips?" And she said, "Nope, help yourself." So we brought a few wagon loads over here and spread them out over the melon patch. And the melons seem to like it. This one has a bloom. I'm not sure which melon it is, because at this point they all kind of look alike, the leaves and everything. So I do have it on the map which one is which, but I don't know right now offhand. This is what I refer to as the regular pumpkin patch. This has got the white pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern, the pie pumpkin in it. And some of those are blooming too, which is pretty exciting. I haven't seen any green pumpkins yet, any male blossoms, but they are growing extremely well, and so far, fingers crossed, no pest problems. And while we're on the subject of pumpkins, this Cherokee Tan is taking over the entire back quarter of the garden. Still not complaining, but I kind of wish I'd understood the true magnitude of this thing when I got involved with it. It's going to need a bed of its own away from everything else, because it is trying to take over, and it has now run together with the squash, which are over on the right side, the watermelons, which are over on the top left, and it's even edging into the sweet potatoes, which are also beginning to vine quite well. Right here is the first little green pumpkin. Pretty cool. Here's the, I'm not sure what it is, but I hope it's a small gourd plant. It is looking pretty healthy. Princess was down here hunting this morning and she caught a mouse. Since we don't want mice eating our squash, etc., I said, good job. A few more herbs over here next to the carrot bed. Those carrots are growing. I have replanted more carrots, but I don't see any sprouts in there yet from the new seeds. That's what the big bare spot is in the bed there. The cilantro's blooming. The parsley isn't blooming yet, but I have been trying to harvest that a little bit at a time. And I don't know if that has anything to do with it, because I really haven't cut any off the cilantro. I probably just collect the seeds off the cilantro and start over with that. And the dill is getting ready to flower a little bit. I saw my neighbor's dill the other day, and it is massive. It is much bigger than this, but I'm debating whether I should actually just let this go and reseed itself, because I suspect that next year's plants will be much more sturdy. I'm not sure. I got the Chinese python bean seeds, And just because I couldn't wait, I planted a couple as an experiment. I'm calling them my magic beans, and this one is sprouted. Now, I have no idea whether it'll have time to grow and actually make anything or not, but it will be a pretty vine on this cattle panel trellis, and so even if it doesn't make any beans this time, at least I know what it looks like, and I'll be able to figure out a space for them next year too, because I only planted 2 of the seeds that I have. I planted the parsnips over here on this side of the trellis, but so far nothing has sprouted. I know they can take up to 28 days to sprout. Both my dad and I are having trouble with getting parsnips to germinate. Not sure why, but we're doing different experiments, and this was the area where I made the seed tape with toilet paper and the flour and water paste for the glue to keep the seeds in place. And we have had a couple of days of pretty heavy rain, and I see the seeds are just where I put them, and the toilet paper is starting to dissolve, so we'll hope we get some sprouts. All of the tomatoes at this point have blooms and green tomatoes on them. I'm getting pretty impatient for a fresh ripe tomato. I was tempted to pick some of the green ones and fry them up, but I'm trying to bide my time. Here's the Cosmic Eclipse. There are some of the Juliet tomatoes. Those plants are interesting. I pruned and suckered them, and they don't seem to be branching out a whole lot after the initial pruning. It kind of surprised me. I thought they'd be a lot bushier than they are. These are the Golden King of Siberia tomatoes from Baker Creek. I was initially worried that this plant would not grow very well because it was so small when I set it out. But as you can see, that is no longer a worry. Here are the money makers. Pretty excited about those. That thing is loaded. And these right here are the yellow pears. They are as tall as I am now, and I'm gonna need taller stakes if I want to keep tying these up. And there's a nice big cluster of yellow pear tomatoes. Those were really, really good last year, so I'm looking forward to those getting ripe. And you can see they're loaded with new blooms. It's a tomato jungle in there. There's the first lemon squash. I built this trellis for the cucumbers, and they're about halfway up. It's about 5 feet tall. I used the poles from the old carport frame that we weren't going to use anymore and just attached some chicken wire on both sides. And I have lots of blooms in there. There are lots of blooms in there, and the bumblebees have been happily working. These guys right here, y'all, have been rock stars. There are 3 plants in there, in that hill, and I've already harvested 4 zucchini, and there are about 12 more on there that should pop out in the next day or two. Every time we get a good rain, the squash just explode, and that makes me happy. These are ones that I think I will definitely grow again. They are a round zucchini, and I would show you the one that I harvested this morning, but I already cut it up and put it in the pickle juice. So There is one. This is what the round zucchini look like. I don't remember exactly where I got these seeds from. I will have to look it up and find out. Sugar babies are spreading out and vining well and blooming. And there's a baby melon right in there. This actually has 3 babies on it this morning. So excited about watermelon. The asparagus yard-long beans are vining really, really well. These black beans that I planted as an experiment are making pods. Of course, those have to stay on until the beans are fully formed because you eat the inside beans and not the pods. I've continued to harvest from the yellow wax beans. I am going to probably mark 1 or 2 plants that have a few young beans on them now and let those mature fully to save the seeds, because I really like these beans. They're very flavorful and tender. And the pinto beans are making a lot of pods. These were also an experiment, but there again, I just have to wait until these beans inside fully form and they dry, because that's the way you harvest pinto beans. This has been pretty interesting. The Moon and Stars watermelons have finally started to take off. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but let me see if I can get closer. These leaves have yellow spots just like the watermelons will. When I first saw that, I freaked out for a minute because I was afraid something was wrong with it, but apparently that's how they're supposed to look. So, no longer worried about it. Just let them grow. The okra's getting taller. It's not anywhere near ready to bloom yet, but it's getting taller. The cabbages that I planted forever ago are finally starting to grow and make something. I don't know if they're going to make it through the whole summer or not, but they're still growing, so I'm going to leave them there. If they don't make anything by the time it comes to set out cabbage for fall, though, I think I'll just get rid of them. And in with the cabbages, the shallots, and that is doing okay. I'm really not sure when I should harvest those, but I noticed the tops are starting to die back, so I guess when the tops die back, I will go ahead and pull those out too. I'm going to make this a cabbage bed for the fall. I have started seeds for fall in the starter cells, and I saw a couple of sprouts a couple of days ago, and today I have about 20, so I should have plenty to fill up that bed and probably a little bit more. I thought I was going to be collecting lettuce seeds, but it just keeps putting out more and more blooms. This crazy mess of beets over here has almost stopped blooming. A couple of them have stopped blooming and they are filling out their seed pods. So when those start to die and dry up, I will get those out of there. I have replanted beets on the other side. There where that darker soil is in between the 2 kohlrabi I managed to grow. Man, I don't know what it is about kohlrabi. I got 1 last year and I got 2 this year. I just don't know. Anyway, the beets are sprouting over there. The new beets are sprouting. The bell pepper plant is blooming. This zucchini has started to produce fruit, but it's got a long way to go before it outperforms the round one for sure. And over there are the, I don't remember which ones those are, but a zucchini got in there. Somehow, you see the one's different. I'm not sure how that happened. They were all supposed to be the same. But they're all squash, so that's good. And I actually can't remember if that's a summer or a winter squash, so I'm going to have to look that up and reread and make some notes about that. There are the other pepper plants, which are still pretty small. It has been nice and warm though, so maybe they'll take off and start growing. Can't remember what kind of peppers those are either. Red Marconis, that's what those are. This squash is a honey bear acorn squash. It does have one little green one down here. I like acorn squash, but if it's only going to produce one or two, I probably won't grow that again either. And there are a few more. And cucumbers over there. I was worried that I wasn't going to have any cucumbers, and I went and bought the plants, and then everything started coming up, so I ended up with 3 kinds of cucumbers also. Here are other rock stars. Haven't gotten any fruit off of these yet, but these tomatillos are absolutely loaded with blooms and tiny green fruits. I don't remember if I even like tomatillos. I don't remember what they taste like, but we should have an ample supply to try out. I plan on putting these in salsa, pico de gallo, that kind of stuff. So we'll see how they do. So that's the garden for this week. Everything is growing well, and I'm pretty excited about getting the harvest going. And I'm going to be canning and freezing and dehydrating a few things, hopefully a lot of things, and I'll keep you posted on that as things come in. I wish you all happy gardening. Thanks for watching. Have a blessed day.